DevVox Belgium 2024. That's the wrong button. Here we go. My next guest is Loïc. Welcome, Loïc.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And so, like you mentioned that you want to talk about full stack development because you are a Java engineer that was forced to do some JavaScript development. So, our condolences. Tell us everything about how horrifying the experience was and how we hate JavaScript for a good reason.
So basically, I'm a consultant, and I was there to develop Java. And at some point, as any client comes and say, I want you to do front end, and you're gonna do Angular. And because you're a consultant, you say, of course, yes, of course, I can do that. And you learn, and that's how I end up doing that. But one thing, except for the environment, because you need to learn Node, you need to learn all those tools that you're unfamiliar. I recently discovered that we take for granted in Maven, you can say, or in Gradle, you can say, basically, I can exclude this dependency because I have it somewhere else. Exactly. You cannot do that in Node. And when you have clash between dependencies, there is a magic trick to solve that. And I was like, why? So that's the kind of thing you get.
We love to complain about everything in Java, about Maven, about Gradle, about all the stuff. But then when you look outside at other programming languages, you're like, oh my God, I want back my Java tools because they're so good.
Yeah, even if you look at TypeScript, everyone say TypeScript is great, you have typed, but it's just like a nice layer on top of JavaScript. So you have all the bad thing of JavaScript that came out of that, and you're used to have serialization, things like that in Java. Does not exist there. So you have to make with what you have, and you need to learn a new set of tools. So you need to play with two different set of tools, or you some kind say, this time we'll do backend, this time we'll do front end, and at some point you need to synchronize or wait for the one to deploy something, and you're like, that's a mess. I don't want to wait. I want to develop, and you either develop mocks to solve that issue, or you're just like, why can't I have that because I need it now? Or the back end is like, I developed this, but I'm not sure how it's working with you. And guys say, oh wait, I need to develop that. And for me, it's just a lot of time and a lot of synchronization that you don't really need.
Yeah, of course. But in the end of the day, there are benefits in learning another programming language, and other more frameworks and other paradigms.
Of course, there is things that you learn using TypeScript, JavaScript, Angular, and you're like, okay, that's interesting. And then you see a talk about that feature, and you're like, okay, that thing, that's very similar to that. It's not the same name. I can apply those things. And at the same time, you can say, okay, I know that thing in Java. We know to do that or to build that to be something good. Okay, I don't have the tool on the other side, but I know how it's working, so I can use it. So you can take advantage of those parallel words and say, okay, I know that, I can use it there, and vice versa. So that's a useful tool to have.
So basically, learning more programming languages makes you a better developer, even in the programming languages that you already know.
Yeah, of course. And sometimes Java developer tends to complain, we don't have the latest and the greatest. And pattern matching is quite new. And I realized at some point using TypeScript, I cannot do pattern matching. Who said that Java is old? We have feature that's not in the language that's like every new release every 2 weeks. So we think Java is old, but on some point of view, it's further ahead than some language that we think are hype.
So, but you know what? I will ask you the other way around. What in JavaScript and TypeScript and React did you learn that helped you in Java?
One thing that is interesting and it's more Angular, they have this concept of observable. When you do a long task, you need to use observable. And what is an observable is basically 3 pipelines. You have one for the data, so basically stream, reactive. You have one for errors, and then one to say it's completed. And I realized watching Venkat talks talking about completable future and things like that, I was staying away because concurrency is scary.
And it's hard
and everything.
confusing.
And I realized, oh, wait a minute. In the behavior, there is something similar there. Okay, that knowledge I can figure out, and all those join and things like that, I know that from the other side, and because I was forced to use it, okay, that's the same concept, just a bit different, but I can figure it out. And the other way around, when you use Lambda in Java,
Yep.
when you see a Lambda in JavaScript, TypeScript, you're like, okay, I know that, that's easy for me.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that was a great example of how you can borrow from different languages. How about the frameworks, right? So you have Angular, for example, that you mentioned that you used, and when you compare the developer experience in one language or in one framework, how does it compare to the other?
I realized that a lot of Java developers they have a learning curve, but they can kind of feel at home when they use Angular for one reason, because as a Java developer, we are familiar with frameworks. Like, we know Spring, we know Quarkus, we know those things. So when we have another framework that provides dependency injection, different layers, it's easy to remap. If you compare to React, everybody says, oh, React is light and everything. Yeah, but you need to choose every dependency you need to do that or that. And as a Java developer, when you have something that's saying, okay, that's the way we do it, that's easy. We know that if we open 2 different Spring Boot projects, we will find something similar from one another. You have the same thing in Angular. That's not the case with other JavaScript library or thing like that, where everybody chooses favorite library, and you need to figure out how is it working there. With Angular, that's one thing, because there is a really opinionated way to do things. You have something similar to what you have in Java, and you feel at home from that point of view.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Loïc, thank you very much. That was very interesting, and for a lot of us, kind of an interesting perspective on what can we borrow from JavaScript, and also how we really shouldn't complain about our lives as Java developers. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And for you folks, stay tuned for more episodes of Build Proposal Lab at DevOps Belgium 2024, coming to you right up.